Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. This weekend sees the return of Ryan Garcia, or King Rye if you prefer. That's what he calls himself. This is his first fight back since he got, he got knocked out, but he basically quit against Gervonta Davis in 7 rounds. That was back in April. He's still a very young man. He's 25 years old, orthodox fighter. Current record is 23 wins with 19 KOs. He's got a bit of pop to his punch. And that one defeat. And he is taking on Oscar Duarte, who is 26 wins with 21 KOs, 1 defeat, which was 4 years ago, I think, and 1 draw. The defeat was on points to a guy called Adrian Estrella, who I looked up on BoxRec previously. Looks to me like a decent enough fighter at a certain level, but in no way is going to, nudge world class. He wouldn't beat anyone in the top 10. That was a split decision loss, and if you look at the subsequent fights, because he's been on a string of wins as Mr. Duarte, there's absolutely no one on it. Not really. He's beats guys like Alex Martin, who was 18-4, I think, at the time, and stopped him, and Mark Benaldez, I think the guy's name was. He was 23-5. That was an 8-round KO too. So he got 2 8-round KOs. He carries a little bit of power late. He does have a high KO percentage, but compared to Ryan Garcia, we're talking Javier Fortuno. He stopped in 6 rounds. Emmanuel Tago, a unanimous decision over 12, wasn't the most impressive of performances. That one. The Luke Campbell fight where he got floored in round 2, and then stopped Campbell, knocked him out with a body punch. Garcia's faced some half decent people. Back in 2019, he beat Romero Duno, who was 21-1. Francisco Fonseca, I think it was. That might have been 2020. He got rid of him in just 1 round. I suppose that was quite impressive. But he does hit hard. But the knock against him is that he has taken time out for, emotional issues or mental issues, perhaps, which indicates, coupled with the quit against Davis, sort of indicates a guy who maybe doesn't have the greatest resiliency, mental fortitude, perhaps not the greatest mettle. And Duarte is, if you compare them as far as dimensions are concerned, they're both roughly the same height, 5'8", 5'8.5", 5'9", I think. Duarte's 27, so he's 2 years older. He's from Mexico, and of course we know all about these Mexicans. Sometimes they can really surprise us. Certainly, if they come to the UK, they can upset our prospects and our favourites, knock them out very often. So he could be one of the Mexican hidden gems. You just don't know. But he has fought in the US before. His last 2 fights were against Angelo Keys, who was 17-2. He retired after 7 rounds. And he beat Alex Martin, which I mentioned was a KO in 8 rounds. That was in America. As was the Mark Benaldez fight that I mentioned. As far as his fights in Mexico is concerned, I'm not really familiar with any of the names. He's, like I say, the Adrian Estrella fight, that was in the US as well. But as far as the Mexican fights are concerned, the ones in Mexico, I really can't comment. But again, we have in Mexico these hidden fighters, these gems, who suddenly get a chance, and it's like a coming out party for them. So, having only seen Duarte in limited, like on YouTube, I can't remember. I must have seen him live. He must have been on undercard somewhere along the line, but I can't remember it. And if I can't remember it, it means he hasn't really stuck in my mind, obviously. But the drips and drabs I've seen on YouTube, he looks like a decent enough fighter. He's orthodox. Come forward, bit of pressure. Doesn't look anywhere near as fast as Garcia. I think, although it's difficult to sort of unravel how the fight will go, because I've seen plenty of Garcia and not much of Duarte, I would say from what I have seen of Duarte, he will try to pressure Garcia. Garcia, I think, will probably start a little bit cautiously. He's coming off that knockout to Davis. He'll want to settle in. And I think Duarte will, if he wants to win this fight, he'll have to come forward. This is a 12-rounder, by the way, not a 10-rounder, which is interesting. I don't know if they've got some alphabet soup trinket on the line, intercontinental rubbish or whatever it was. But Garcia is still ranked anyway, so he doesn't need one of those trinkets because he's already ranked. If Duarte does win, I presume he will move up the rankings and take Garcia's place in some of the rankings anyway. You never know with these ruling bodies, do you? They're a law unto themselves. But I do see Garcia being a little bit tentative at the start, kind of like he was against Luke Campbell, where he didn't start very well. He got floored in the second round, but he kind of, his mind didn't appear to be on the job. Whereas with Tank, I thought he was letting his hands go a bit more. Just before he got floored early, he was being quite proactive. I think after 3 rounds, Garcia will start to get a little bit braver. Probably move in with on Duarte. That will probably suit Duarte. But I think Garcia's got to get the balance right here between pressure and boxing. I see the jab as being a main punch. I don't think he should just go in, walk in the front door and exchange punches with Duarte. He should really hang everything off the jab. I mean, you should always do that, really. That's the way I was taught to box anyway. Your jab is your main weapon. It's the main punch. Everything hangs off that jab, all your combinations. And I think Garcia would be well advised to concentrate on the jab early, just get his rhythm going, get the range going, maybe contain Duarte if he's got any kind of real ambition to come in and put pressure on. Don't forget, Duarte does have 21 wins by knockout in 26 fights. And even though it's lower opposition, again, you never know with these Mexican guys. He might have a bit of pop, real pop. But I see Garcia gradually containing Duarte, and probably around about round 7 and 8, he'll probably start to go to work, really start to beat up Duarte. I can see him probably stopping Duarte in about 10 or 11 rounds. Maybe sooner, maybe about 8. I'll say between the 8th and the 11th. That's my guess. I think Garcia will have a little bit too much. It could go the distance if Garcia is quite tentative because of that stoppage loss that he had to Tank. We might want to do the rounds. He might think, okay, I'll be very cautious, very conservative. But skills, to me, from what I've seen of Duarte, the skills of Garcia look far superior. And I think Duarte's best chance of winning is to put constant mental pressure on Garcia. He's got 36 minutes to do it and really test Garcia's mentality, really test him to see if there's any demons in his head, test him to see how much he wants this win. People have said Garcia, he's 25, he's got other interests, he's got all these Instagram followers, and does things outside boxing. Does he really want to be a boxer? That's what people have asked. And I think it's a question worth asking, because Garcia has had his mental and emotional problems, taking time out of boxing. He came back, he quit against Tank. Yeah, you can ask that question, and that to me is Duarte's best chance of victory. Ask questions of Garcia, put pressure on him, force the issue, and see if you can grind him down. But I'm going to stick with the person I've seen far more of. I'm going to go for Garcia to maybe stop Duarte, like I say, between the 8th and the 11th. But it could go the distance. Depends on what style Garcia wants to use. But if Garcia comes in, starts quick, and tries to get rid of the demons by swapping punches early, I think he could come a cropper. I don't think he'd be that daft, though. I don't think his trainer would allow him to do that. But we'll see. Anyway, if you've got any comments to leave, or you want to make your own prediction, please put them in the comments section. Thank you for your time as always. I'll read your comments and answer them. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And of course, hit the like button. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. It's always appreciated. Appreciate your time. And I'll catch you later. Bye for now.